You're cosplaying as a tough guy while you bootleg for six grown-ass men who jumped on a nurse and shot him dead. This is not the tough position.
This is the moment calm completely breaks on a MAGA-lined panel. After nearly an hour of dismissing clear video evidence of a fatal shooting, Brian Tyler Cohen and Tim Miller finally call out the disinformation and bad faith arguments. We'll break it down and explore why it matters.
And Tim Miller, it seems to me it's been a very significant 48 hours, actually, for Donald Trump, for his administration, for the wider public, and for this issue of trust and being able to believe what we see with our own eyes. Because if you listen to what these administration officials were saying in the immediate aftermath of this killing, then this guy, Alex Pretty, was about to launch a massacre of law enforcement officers, when we could all see from the various clips that were coming out that that simply wasn't true. He was defending a woman protester who'd been thrown on the floor. He was then thrown on the floor himself. Yes, he had a weapon on him, but at no stage did he brandish that weapon or represent any threat to the 8 ICE officers that engulfed him. And in fact, they took away his gun and then they killed him. So given that we could all see that, I think what's happened here, which has been really pretty unprecedented and quite fascinating to watch, is that Donald Trump has realized this has crossed a line many people may not have thought Donald Trump was aware of or cared about. And that line being, if you try and tell people that what they've just seen with their own eyes is not true, they're not going to buy it, trust in you is going to erode, and your polling numbers are going to get slayed, and ultimately it will cost you at the ballot box. What's your reading of it?
Well, I hope you're right, Piers. I hope that Donald Trump changes course. I think we've seen some very minor evidence of that, replacing Greg Bovino with Tom Homan. For me, I would have preferred that all of the ICE and CBP agents be removed from Minneapolis immediately and then taken off the streets and brought back to D.C. or to the border where they're supposed to be. Minneapolis is famously 300 miles from a border. And, then they could reassess what a program would look like where they actually went after the worst of the worst rather than menacing American citizens and menacing people who are here legally. And I do agree with you that the American people overwhelmingly do not want and do not support a government that murders its own citizens in the street, that unloads a clip and shoots them 10 times, fires 6 bullets into their dead body on the ground, and then lies about them and smears them after they're dead. I think that the vast majority of Americans don't want that. You'll probably be able to find a couple of shills to come on and defend that on this show, but I think the vast majority of Americans say, no, we do not want murderous mass thugs anonymously killing our fellow Americans. And so I do think...
Well, it's because of mindless people like the gentleman that just finished speaking is the reason why people have this perception that Donald Trump is somehow doing something wrong. They deported 600,000 people. They've deported people who have committed murder, rape, all kinds of dangerous and felonious crimes. Also, they're deployed in all 50 states. Why is Minnesota the only state that's having issues? And then to get on TV and say that a guy is observing the First Amendment and Second Amendment while he's at a protest assaulting ICE agents, Border Patrol agents. He committed an assault, a felonious assault against the ICE agent. That's how he got into a physical altercation while carrying a firearm without notifying them.
What was the assault? When
the Border Patrol pushed the lady, he went hands on. That is a felony. You cannot do that.
He didn't assault anyone. But Brandon, here's the problem.
Is that not a felony crime?
When you say what you witnessed was an assault,
to physically assault,
Brandon, hang on, let me finish.
Piers,
when you say what you witnessed was an assault by Alex Pretty on ICE officers, that is not what I witnessed.
Piers, because you don't live in America, you've never done law enforcement, you don't understand the law. And with all due respect,
I've got a home in America. I've lived in America on and off for 20 years.
But I'm saying you are not vested in American law enforcement. When you grab somebody like Pretty did with an ICE agent, that is an assault, subject to an arrest. They had every right to take him down to the ground.
Brandon Tatum came onto the panel insisting that the police had every right to take the individual down, presenting the situation as if there was no question of wrongdoing. But what followed was nearly half an hour of relentless deflection. The conversation spun wildly, hopping from debates about Jimmy Kimmel allegedly crying, to dissecting Obama's deportation record, to a bizarre discussion about a syringe incident involving Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. Each topic served a single purpose: to distract viewers from the central tragedy, to draw attention away from the undeniable fact that a person had been killed under the watch of federal authorities. This is a masterclass in political deflection. By constantly changing the subject, the panel attempted to normalize violence and shift focus from accountability. They wanted the audience to forget the body on the ground, to lose sight of the human cost behind the headlines. And yet, deflection only works until someone forces the conversation back to reality, and that's exactly what Tim Miller did. He interrupted the cycle of excuses and spin, insisting on returning to the core issue: the abuse, the misuse of authority, and the lives that were destroyed in the process. The impact was immediate. The scripted talking points about back the blue loyalty, about law and order, about supposed threats to public safety, all began to collapse under the weight of truth. For the first time in the segment, viewers could see the contrast between political theater and lived reality. The rhetoric that had been used to justify deadly force faltered, revealing a panel struggling to defend what, in plain sight, was indefensible. This isn't just about one debate or one viral clip. It's a window into a larger issue: how power can be used to obscure justice, how authority can be shielded from scrutiny, and how quickly disinformation can take over a conversation when accountability is inconvenient. The moment Miller forced the focus back to the reality on the ground was a striking reminder that truth, once presented clearly, cannot be ignored. Even conservative viewers, even those predisposed to support federal enforcement, could see the facts: a deadly encounter, evidence ignored, and excuses evaporating in real time. For those committed to justice, democracy, and transparency, this is a pivotal moment. It shows what happens when principled voices refuse to be drowned out by rhetoric, when reality confronts spin, and when ordinary citizens are reminded that public safety cannot come at the cost of human life. This is more than commentary, it's a moral checkpoint, asking all of us to consider the consequences of defending authority without question.
What ICE is doing in Minneapolis is far beyond that remit. They are going after people that have asylum claims that have not been adjudicated. They're going after protesters. They're going after American citizens. They've jailed American citizens. They're going into neighborhoods. They're bullying people. They're pushing people, and they're murdering people. So if your issue is let's deal with Hennepin County prisons and figure out how to work better with them, then let's fine. You don't need to murder American citizens to achieve that goal. And so we can agree on that. I wish you could agree that the American citizens should be shot dead.
Let me bring in Brandon.
More issues.
Let me bring in Brandon. Let me bring in Brandon because I want to bring in just an update from Polymarket about Kristi Noem. It's quite interesting. We're following the prediction markets on this subject of who will be the first to leave Trump's cabinet. Almost uniquely, he's a year in and hasn't fired anyone from his cabinet yet. Polymarket has a $1.5 million market open, a lot of activity. As we speak, Kristi Noem is at 39% to be that first member of Trump's cabinet to be fired. She was just at 13% before the two deaths in Minneapolis. I mean, Brandon, do you think she's on the way out? Is she going to be the first casualty of Trump's cabinet?
I don't know. I think Trump is very loyal to the people that are in his cabinet right now. That's why he hasn't fired anybody so far. But I do think that she's becoming incredibly unpopular on the Republican side. Now, I don't necessarily agree or disagree with it. I don't pay attention to what she's saying. I don't care unless people are getting arrested and they're doing their job. But I do believe if she's not doing what she's supposed to be doing, if she's doing things illegitimately and is not working on behalf of the country, get her sorry self out of there. And I believe that with anybody that's in the cabinet. I don't owe no loyalty to none of y'all. If you don't do your job, you need to get fired. And so if there's a fair evaluation of Kristi Noem and what she's doing and not doing, and if she's not doing what's right for the American people, and she's committing fraudulent behavior, fire her. I think we all understand it. Can I give you the Border Patrol response real quick? Law enforcement and Border Patrol connection, because I worked in law enforcement in Tucson, which is a border state, and we work well with Border Patrol and ICE. And there's a big difference when you arrest somebody and they are illegally in this country. Now, local law enforcement not have jurisdiction to arrest them for their federal crimes, but we do take them to the jail and we put them on what we call an ICE hold. Therefore, they cannot leave the jail facility even when they're done serving for their city crime or their state crime. The ICE agents will come and verify them and take them. That keeps the community way safer because ICE does not have to go into the community. When you force ICE to go into the community and then you have idiots harassing them, doxing them, throwing stuff at them, blockading their vehicles, you create an unduly risk. This is why ICE is patrolled, or even Border Patrol in their assistance with ICE around the entire country, and you don't see people getting shot, and hardly anywhere else. You would say 99.9% of the shootings are in Minnesota. What?
Yeah, dude. Okay. You do see people getting harassed in other places, actually, not just Minnesota. Minnesota's just the only place they've murdered anyone so far. But they've harassed people. They jailed citizens in California. They shot people in Chicago.
Listen, give me the murder numbers. Give me the people who have been murdered by ICE, and then you tell me where they were murdered
this year. There have been 2 people murdered by ICE in Minneapolis so far. And then
one city.
Renee Good and Alex Preddy. And then they shot a guy in Chicago, a gal in Chicago.
Patrol agent. No, Renee hit an ICE agent with her car. She got shot. This guy came and confronted and physically assaulted and had physical contact with a firearm.
I can't do any more of this apology of
you don't
have
killers. To do anything.
You can do whatever you want, man, but do not smear dead people.
If this guy goes to jail for shooting Preddy, let's do a poly market.
What you're doing is shameful. You should be ashamed of yourself.
You don't understand the law. Don't get mad at me.
I actually think it's.
I'm not mad. You're just. You should repent.
You don't understand the law.
You should find the Lord.
I think what Brandon is doing. I think what Brandon is doing is actually. I think what Brandon is doing is actually pretty instructive because the reality is that everybody saw the video. Like 85% of Americans saw this video.
It doesn't matter.
You don't understand the law. Brandon,
so what you're seeing is not according to what they're going to be judged by.
Control yourself. Brendan, try to control yourself.
No, how about you listen?
Try to control yourself.
Know what you're talking
about. Just try like 2 seconds to not talk.
Give me the law. Give me the law that he's going to be prosecuted under.
Brandon, 2 seconds, man.
Give me the law he's going to be prosecuted under.
This isn't a good testament for how law enforcement officials are able to control themselves. 2 seconds.
No, it's not a good testament how.
The reality is the vast majority of Americans,
like you don't know the law.
Brandon, just shut up for like 2 seconds.
Where's the law?
The vast majority of Americans saw this video. We know what we saw with our own eyes. Even conservatives, even independents know that what ICE was doing was completely unjustified. That he was holding his cell phone and was bombarded by 6 grown-ass men who shot him dead. And the fact that you're standing up here, Brandon, just shut the fuck up for 2 seconds. The fact that you can sit up here and claim.
You talking tough ain't gonna work with me, buddy. Give me the law.
What are you going to do? Shoot him 10 times? Shoot him in the back of the head?
This whole time, you're cosplaying as a tough guy while you bootleg for 6 grown-ass men who jumped on a nurse and shot him dead. This is not the tough position. You are defending... Being a bootlicker is not a tough position, my dude. Being a bootlicker for a bunch of grown-ass men who killed a nurse who was helping a woman is not the tough position that you think it is.
Gentlemen,
where is he going to be charged with?
Can I just say, Gentlemen, I had hip surgery a week ago. And can I just say it flared up at the start of this debate. It's carried on flaring ever since. And the only thing I can put it down to is that you lot have shouted at each other now for 45 minutes without drawing breath. And I owe it to my new hip to call an end to proceedings. But thank you all very much.
Thanks, Piers.
This aggressive defense of authority isn't about strength, it's about fear. Brandon Tatum's reflexive loyalty to law enforcement isn't rooted in justice or public safety. It's rooted in anxiety about a world where a badge no longer guarantees protection from consequences. A world where ICE agents, police officers, and federal authorities are expected to answer for their actions just like anyone else. When Brian Tyler Cohen finally snapped, it wasn't about theatrics or a gigo. It was the result of watching clear video evidence be dismissed, facts brushed aside, and a man's death treated as an inconvenience. That moment captured a frustration shared by millions of Americans who are tired of being told not to trust their own eyes. Cohen's response, backed by Tim Miller, exposed how often civility is weaponized to shield power from scrutiny. And that's the real question this exchange raises. At what point does demanding politeness become a way to silence accountability? When does staying calm serve the truth? And when does it only protect people like Brandon Tatum, who are invested in defending authority at all costs? Brian Tyler Cohen didn't reject law enforcement. He demanded that law enforcement operate within the bounds of democracy, transparency, and consequence. This wasn't just a heated panel on Piers Morgan's show. It was a snapshot of a broader struggle playing out across the country between accountability and impunity, evidence and excuses. Tim Miller and Brian Tyler Cohen forced the conversation back to the human cost, and in doing so, revealed how fragile the back the blue narrative becomes when confronted with reality. So now it's your turn? Was Brian Tyler Cohen right to shut the argument down forcefully? Or did that moment cross a line? Let us know in the comments. And if you value pro-democracy analysis that refuses to normalize abuse of power, like the video, subscribe to Demo News Watch, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what comes next.